Hello, Vita. Today we are discussing about your next chapter of your second book. Should Wizard Hit Mummy? Before you read a little bit introduction about the chapter, here is a story about the worldview of a little child and the difficult moral questions she raises during the story session with her father. The story revolves around Jack, who is the father of two kids, Johnny and Robbie. His wife Claire is carrying their third child. Jack had a habit of telling his daughter Jo a story every evening and on Saturday afternoon naps. This time, when he was telling her a story, she interrupts him and asks him questions. Whenever she feels that things that are being told are not right, so Jack now finds himself in a fix and does not know how to resolve Joe's questions. Parents feel that children should do or think exactly what they told. They should believe whatever they are told by their parents. But is this the right attitude? This moral question is raised by the story and left for the reader to decide what should be done. Okay, here something about your author. Should Wizard Hit Mummy, written by John Hoyer Updike. He was born in 18th March 1932 and died in 27th January 2009. Was an American novelist, poet, short story writer, art critic, a literary critic. One of only three writers to win the Pulitzer Prize for fiction more than once. Updike published more than 20 novels, more than a dozen short story collections, as well as poetry, art, literary criticism, and children's books during his career. Okay, we should start your chapter. Your first paragraph. In the evenings and for Saturday naps, like 2 days, Jack told his daughter Jo a story out of his head. This custom began when she was two or was itself now nearly 2 years old, and his head felt empty. Each new story was a slight variation of a basic tale. Small creatures, usually named Roser Fish, or Roser Squirrel, or Roser Chipmunk, had some problem and went it to the wise old owl. The owl told him to go to the wizard, and the wizard performed a magic spell. That solved the problem, demanding in payment a number of pennies. Penny means a small sum of money, a greater than the number that Roser's creature had, but in the same breath directing the animal to a place where the extra pennies could be found. The Roser was so happy, he played many games with other creatures and went home to his mother just in time to hear the train whistle that brought his daddy home from Boston. Okay, here some difficult words. Nap means short sleep, especially during the day. Custom means tradition, trend. Wizard means a man who has magical powers. Magic spell means a form of words used as a magical charm. And pennies means a small sum of money. Okay. Every evening and on Sunday afternoon naps, Jack used to tell his daughter a bedtime story. This habit started when Joe was 2 years old, and now that Joe was 4 years old, Jack did not have any creative ideas for stories. Most of the stories that he used to tell Joe revolved around the same plot concerning an animal named Roser. Same plot concerning an animal named Roser. In every story, Roser used to be a different animal with some kind of problems. Different animals with some kind of problem. Then Roser would go to this wise old to take help, who would in turn tell him to go to the wizard. The Roser would take his problem to the wizard, who would help him in exchange for some pennies. Mostly about more than what Roser had with him. After helping him, the wizard would ask him to go to a certain place to fetch some more pennies, and Roser would do exactly like that. Then, after paying the wizard, Roser would go back and all the other animals would start playing with him. He would be very happy, and later he would return home just in time to wait for his father, who would be returning from Boston by train. Okay, bete? Your next paragraph. Jack describes the supper, and the story was over. Working his way was through. This game was especially fatiguing on Saturday. Tired. Fatiguing means tired. Because Joe never fell asleep in naps anymore, and knowing this made the ride seem fertile. The little girl, not so little anymore, the bumps her feet made under the covers were halfway down the bed. Their big double bed that they let her be in for naps when she was sick, had at last arranged herself, and from the way her fat face, deep in the pillow, shone in the sunlight, shifting through the drawn shades, it did not seem fantastic that some magic would occur and she would take her nap like an infant of two. Her brother Bobby was two and already asleep with his bottle. Jack asked, who shall the story be about today? Roser. Joe squeezed her eyes shut and smiled to be thinking she was thinking. Her eyes opened. Her mother's blue skunk, she said firmly. A new animal. They must talk about skunks at nursery schools. Having a fresh hero momentarily stirred Jack to creative enthusiasm. Stirred means move or cause to move slightly. Supper means an evening meal, typically a light or informal one. Fatting means cause someone to feel exhausted, and right means social custom, practice, conventional act. Fertile means pointless. Shown means past participle of sign. Skunk means a small cat seized animals. Okay. Jack had now started getting tired of this daily routine because he had run out of ideas for the stories. Also, Joe did not sleep listening to the story anymore. He has started feeling that the practice was just a waste of time and there was no point doing it. He also noticed that Joe has started growing big and that her legs now stretched halfway down the bed. When she snuggled in for her story, with all the light coming in from the window over her face that was deep in the pillow, Jack knew that she won't be sleeping soon. Bobby, her baby brother, who was 2 years old, was already sleeping with his bottle in his mouth. When Jack asked Joe that who should the story be about that day, she thought for a while and replied that she wanted it to be of a skunk. Jack then thought that she must have heard about this animal in nursery school and also got enthusiastic as he had a new hero for his story. Okay, next paragraph. All right, he said, once upon a time, in the deep dark woods, there was a tiny little creature by the name of Roger Skunk, and the smell smelled very bad. Yes, Joe said, he smelled so bad that none of the other woodland creatures would play with him. Woodland means land covered with trees. Joe looked at him solemnly. Solemnly means with deep sincerity. She had not foreseen this. Foreseen means be aware of the beforehand. Whenever he would go out to play, Jack continued with jest. Jest means great enthusiasm and energy. Remembering certain humiliation. Humiliation means make feel ashamed of his own childhood. All of the other tiny animals would cry, oh, here comes Roger's stinky skunk. Stinky means having strong or unpleasant smell. And they would run away, and Roger's skunk would stand there all alone. And two little round tears would fall from his eyes. The corner of Joe's mouth dropped down, and her lower lip bent forward as he traced with the forefingers along the side of her nose the course of one of Roger's skunk's tears. Won't he see the all? She asked in a high and faintly roughed voice. Sitting on the bed beside her, Jack felt the cover stuck as her legs switched tensely. Tensely means unable to relax because of nervousness, anxiety. He was pleased with this moment. He was telling her something true, something she must know, and had no wish to hurry on. Then Jack started the story. The story with the Roger skunk living in the forest. Jack said the Roger smelled bad. None of the other animals in the forest liked to play with him. All the other animals would start running away whenever he would go out to play. At this moment, Jack was recollecting about certain humiliation that he had faced during his childhood. For being fuel smell, bad smell, then Joe asked whether Roser would see the wise owl. Jack was sitting beside her and noticed that Joe was getting anxious with the story and felt pleased with it. He did not want to hurry and wanted to make the story more intense as he wanted to convey a message through it. But downstairs a chair scraped and he realized he must get down to help clear paint the living room woodwork. Well, he walked along very sadly and came to a very big tree, and in the tip top of the tree was an enormous, wise old owl. Good, Mr. Owl, Roger Skunk said, All the other little animals run away from me because I smelled so bad. So you do, the owl said, very, very bad. What can I do? Roses said, and he cried very hard. The wizard, Joe shouted, and sat right up, and a little golden book spilled from the bed. Now, Joe, Daddy is telling the story. Do you want to tell Daddy the story? No, you me. Then lie down and be sleepy. Her head relapsed onto the pillow and she said, out of your head. Well, the owl thought and thought. At last he said, why don't you go see the wizard, Daddy? What? Are magic spells real? This was a new phase just this last month, a reality phase. When he told her, spider eat bugs, she turned to her mother, do they really? And when Claire told her God was in the sky and all around them, she turned to her father and insisted, with a silly yet eager smile, is he really? They are real in the stories, Jack answered curtly. And she had made his miss a beat in the narrative. The owl said, go through the dark woods, under the apple trees, into the swamp, over the creek. Creek means river. What is a creek? A little river. Over the creek, and there will be the wizard's house. And that's the way Rose's skunk went, and pretty soon he came to a little white house and he rapped on the door. Scrapped means drag or pull a hard or sharp implement. Enormous means very large in size. Eager means keenly expectant, interested. Narrative means story. Swamp means an area of low lying, uncultivated ground where water collects. Creek means a small river. Rap means strike with a series or rapid audible blows, especially in order to attract attention. Relapse means a return to less active or rose state, and curtly means rudely, brief in speech, abrupt in manners. Okay. Suddenly, Jack heard a voice downstairs of a chair, being fooled and realized that he must go down to help his wife paint the living room, but had to continue with the story as Joe had not slept yet. So Jack continued that Roger's skunk was sad, and as he walked, he came across a tree where he saw the wise owl. The skunk then shared his problem with the wise owl, and the owl started thinking of how he could help the little skunk. Then Joe sorted enthusiastically that the wise owl would ask him to go to the wizard, as she had known about the basic plot of the story her dad used to tell her. Jack got a bit irritated and scolded her and asked her if she wanted to tell the story by herself. Joe denied, and Jack asked her to lie down peacefully and continue listening the story. Joe told Jack to tell the story out of his head. Then Jack continued with the story there. The owl told Roser to go see the wizard for his problem. Then Joe interrupted him and asked if the magic spell that the wizard used were real. When Joe asked the questions, Jack realized that Joe was coming into the reality phase and had started asking questions about the things her parents used to tell her. He noticed that she no longer believed her parents blindly and was curious about everything that was told to her. Jo repeated her question, to which Jack replied that the spells were real in stories. He continued with his story that the skunk went through the way the wise owl had asked him to go and reached a white house and knocked on the door. Okay, thank you. Have a nice day.